Hi guys, I'm going to read chapter 9 and 10 together today. So, last time we read, Ruth, Rose, Josh, and Dink had just gone into Trevor's lab and he's going to show them around. There's a picture right at the beginning of chapter 9 here. Okay, so let's find out what they find out in the lab. Chapter 9. After the kids were in the lab, Trevor closed the door and leaned against it. He folded his thick arms over his chest. "Okay, ask away," he said. "We're trapped," Dink thought, and there were no windows. "Why did you become a scientist?" Josh asked Trevor. "I like to study things," Trevor answered. "I want to know what makes the universe work. I like to solve problems." Dink looked around the room. Everything was white and very clean, like a hospital. On top of a stainless steel table, he saw a microscope, bottles filled with different colored liquids, and a long bone. Next to the bone was a row of sharp knives. You told Dink you were a detective once," Josh said. Trevor nodded. "I studied criminology in college," he said. "Thought I'd have fun catching bad guys, but it wasn't much fun at all. Now I study old bones and try to imagine what the real beast looked like, what it ate, and how it lived and died." Dink glanced at Trevor's neatly combed black hair. "Did 3 of those hairs end up on my shirt?" he wondered. "Did Trevor shove the fake diamond under that heavy board?" "Did you learn how to take fingerprints when you were a detective?" Ruth Rose asked. "Yup." Dink took a deep breath, then asked his question. "Can you tell where a hair came from? I mean, from a certain man or woman?" "Sometimes," Trevor said. "It depends on how complete the hair is. The shaft of the hair is the part we can see. On our heads, the shafts are what we shampoo and comb. But under the scalp, on the end of each hair shaft, there's something called a follicle. This follicle has a tiny bulb that attaches the shaft to the skin. Scientists can study a follicle and learn a lot about the person the hair came from." Dink took the paper towel from his pocket and laid it on the table. He unwrapped it so they could all see the black hair against the white paper. Then he took the first 3 hairs from the anagram book and laid them next to the others on the paper towel. "Where'd you get those?" Trevor asked. Dink blinked. He didn't want to lie. "They're part of a mystery we're trying to solve," Ruth Rose said. "We love mysteries. It's sort of a hobby for us." Dink swallowed. "Thank you, Ruth Rose." Trevor picked up the paper towel and held it close to his eyes. He said. He stepped over to the microscope and slid the hairs onto a little glass tray. He sat in a chair and adjusted the microscope while looking through the eyepiece at the hairs. "I thought so," he said. "Come take a look." Dink moved over and Trevor stood up. "Kneel in the chair so you can see," he told Dink. "Keep both eyes open, but put one against the little rubber cup." Dink followed Trevor's instructions. At first, all he saw was a dark blur. "It looks all fuzzy," he said. Trevor adjusted a knob. "Better?" he asked. Dink pulled back. "Yes. One of the hairs looks like a tree branch with bark," he said. "I can see the follicle thing on the end. The other 3 hairs are different. They're smoother." I'll show you a quick picture of what Dink is seeing through the microscope lens here. Trevor smiled. He removed the 4 hairs and placed them back on the paper towel. Finding hairs at a crime scene is one way detectives can arrest the right person, he explained. They compare the follicles and the shafts. Only one of the 4 hairs you gave me is from a human head. Trevor folded the paper towel and handed it back to Dink. The other 3 aren't even real hair, he said. They're man-made, which means they don't have follicles and never grow out of skin. The 3 kids just stared at him. Then where did they come from? Ruth Rose asked. Trevor shrugged. Probably from an article of clothing, he said. Gloves, jacket, a fake fur collar, maybe? A thought was buzzing around Dink's brain like a bee in a bottle. The kids thanked Trevor and left the lab. Well, Mr. Detective, Josh said to Dink, what do you think? Did Trevor's eyes tell you he stole the river diamond? He could have, Dink said. But now we know the hairs he found on my shirt aren't Trevor's hairs. They aren't anyone's hairs, Ruth Rose said. They're fake, like the diamond is fake. The kids walked through the Spino room. Dink stopped and gazed up at Spino's head, which almost touched the ceiling. The workers were sitting together taking a coffee break. He saw it all, Dink said. Josh was standing next to Dink. Who, Trevor? He asked. No, Spino, Dink said. He saw what really happened last night before the alarm went off. Spino saw who shoved the ladder, making the plank fall on top of the diamond case. Spino saw who stole the river diamond and left that fake one. Too bad dinosaurs can't talk like the ones in that movie last night, Josh said. Ruth Rose walked over to the river diamond exhibit. But we don't know for sure if this is a fake, she said, peering through the dome. Couldn't it be the real river diamond and Alex is wrong? Dink joined her and looked through the dome. I think Alex is right, he said. The plank couldn't scratch a real diamond, but it could scratch a fake one. And this one definitely has a scratch on one side. Now we just have to figure out how fake hairs got onto that plank, Ruth Rose said. Even if they're not human hairs, Josh said, they still could have dropped off a human. How? Ruth Rose asked. Josh shrugged. Maybe the thief works in a place that makes fake fur coats, he said. He might have some of that fake fur on his body. Or maybe the crook was wearing gorilla gloves when he moved the plank to... Oh my gosh, Dink said. Nog was wearing a caveman costume. The wig and beard were curly, but that coat thing had straight black hair all over it. And I'll bet it was fake fur. Were you thinking that too, before Dink said anything? As we were collecting those clues, so let's think about what we figured out. So Trevor said the hairs are not from a human head, they're fake. So that got me thinking back to when they just passed that fur shop. And then how they were talking about Nog and how Nog was there last night wearing some fake wigs and beards and a costume. So I started thinking, maybe Nog has something to do with it. Maybe he dropped fake hairs on the plank somehow. And now that's what Dink is thinking as well. Could this be a real clue? Red herring? What do you think? Here's chapter 10. You're right, Josh said. I saw a movie once where some thieves were dressed up like apes. Their costumes looked just like the one Nog was wearing. If Nog lifted the plank or shoved it, some of the hairs from his costume could have been left behind, Ruth Rose said. Then when we shoved the plank, the hairs got onto your shirt. But I don't think Nog was here last night, Dink said. Did anyone see him? I didn't, Ruth Rose said, but he could have been hiding somewhere, just like Trevor could have been hiding. And then he creeps out in the middle of the night, Dink added. He makes the plank fall, grabs the river diamond, and leaves the fake one. I like it. But I thought we decided it was Trevor, Sylvia, and Dr. Worst, Josh said. That was before Trevor told us the hairs were fake, Dink said. But what if he's lying? Josh asked. What if Trevor realized the hairs were really his and knew we were on to him? I think he was telling the truth, Ruth Rose said. I was watching his eyes. They didn't look sneaky. His eyes looked interested in what he was telling us. And I saw the hairs under the microscope, Dink said. The one I found in the bathroom was different from the 3 you found on my shirt. Trevor was combing his hair over the sink, so that hair was probably from his head. The other 3 weren't his, so maybe he never touched that plank. Okay, so now what do we do? Josh asked. Dink walked toward the office. We find Nog, but I'm guessing that isn't his real name, he said. A fake name, fake hairs, and a fake diamond, Josh said. If we can get some hairs from Nog's costume, we can see if they're the same as the ones that came from the plank and my shirt, Dink said. That would at least prove that Nog was messing with the plank. Maybe we'll catch him with the diamond, Josh said. What about fingerprints? Ruth Rose asked. If we got Nog's fingerprints, the police could see if the same fingerprints were on the fake diamond. If his fingerprints are on the fake, doesn't that prove he's the thief? Right, Dink said. How do we get his fingerprints? Josh asked. I'll think of something, Ruth Rose said. First, we have to find him. Dink knocked on the office door. Sylvia opened the door. Hi, kids, she said. Was Trevor any help? He was a lot of help, Dink said. We learned about how detectives can catch crooks by finding their hair. Sylvia touched her own hair. So... Trevor told us about artificial hair, too, Ruth Rose added. Like that caveman costume Nog was wearing yesterday. We'd like to talk to him about our project. Is Nog his real name? Dink asked. Sylvia laughed. No, his name is Jack. Do you know where he lives? Josh asked. Nope, he's never told me, Sylvia said. He told us he lives near Paul Revere's house, Ruth Rose said. Oh, that's a museum, Sylvia said. Is it close enough to walk? Ruth Rose asked. Sylvia shook her head. Not really, she said, but you can walk to where they park the swan boats. You'll find a bus stop there. Wait for one that says Paul Revere House on the little sign. If you see Jack, ask him why he didn't come to work today. Didn't come to work today? Interesting. Interesting clue, third graders. The kids walked to the swan boat pond, then waited about 10 minutes for the Paul Revere House bus. Dink paid with some of the money his dad had given him, and they took seats up front. It's pretty cool to think Paul Revere hung out around here, Josh said. He might have ridden on this same bus. Maybe he sat in this seat. Dink laughed. Josh, Paul Revere died almost 200 years ago, he said. In those days, people rode on horses, not buses. I knew that, Matt, Josh said, making goofy eyes at Dink. Just playing with you. The bus stopped in front of a dark brown house. A small sign said Paul Revere lived in the house starting in 1770. The kids left the bus and walked toward the house. It was squeezed between some other old buildings. Another bus pulled up and a bunch of tourists climbed down. They walked up the sidewalk toward the house. Dink saw a restaurant, a dry cleaning place, and a flower shop. Maybe we should ask if anyone knows where Jack lives, he said. Before I turn the page, here's the picture. They were heading for the flower shop when they passed a bright yellow door. Ruth Rose said, "Wait!" She pointed to a sign that said, "Your Fantasy. Rent costumes for all occasions." "If Jack lives near here, maybe he got his caveman costume from this shop." In the window, they saw Elvis, a clown, and Mickey Mouse. "Come on," Ruth Rose said. Inside the shop, costumes hung from hooks on the walls. They saw princesses, movie stars, even a giant chicken. "Can I help you?" a man asked from behind the counter. The kids stepped up to the counter. "Do you have a caveman costume?" Dink asked. The man nodded. "Sure do," he said, "but I'm afraid it's for adult sizes. Way too big for you." "Can we see it anyway?" Ruth Rose asked. "Sure," he said. "It was rented for a long time, but it just came back this morning." The man went behind a curtain and returned a few minutes later with a large, flat box. He removed the lid and laid it on the counter in front of Dink. Inside the box, the kids saw Nog's fake fur coat, shaggy beard and wig, and club, which turned out to be made of cardboard. "That's what Jack, was wearing," Ruth Rose said. Dink noticed a few black hairs on the inside of the box lid. He wet a finger, picked up one of the hairs, and slipped it into his pocket. "Do you kids know Jack?" the man asked. "Yes, we met him at the New England Children's Museum," Ruth Rose said. "He was wearing this, and he said he lived near Paul Revere's house. We wanted to talk to him about a mystery we're trying to solve." The man nodded. "Jack rented this caveman outfit for his job at the museum," he said. "I don't know why he brought it back so soon. Maybe he got fired." "Or if he stole a river diamond worth millions of dollars, maybe he quit," Dink thought. "And that's why he returned the costume." So what do you think? Do you think it could be Jack, who was Nog? That would kind of be a whole new theory, different from the one that Josh came up with earlier. We collected a lot of clues here. Let's kind of think back to the clues that we just got in the last chapter. Jack didn't go to work today. We know the hairs are fake, like the ones that Jack wore as Nog yesterday at the museum. Jack also returned the caveman outfit for his that he rented out for his job, and the owner of this costume shop says, "I don't know why he brought it back so soon. Maybe he got fired." So are these clues lining up for you guys? Do you think he quit because he stole the river diamond and is now off to sell it for millions of dollars? Or do you think there's something else going on? Make some predictions. I will see you next time.